Alabama football has had so many star running backs over the years that I honestly don't even have time to count them all out, and it would probably bore you guys. After Najee Harris wrapped up one of the best Alabama running back careers ever, he is now in the NFL, and the Crimson Tide are going to have to figure out who's going to be the guy in 2021. They have 5 really good options at this point, and in today's video, we're going to go through each guy, know what each one brings to the table, and at the end of the video, I will decide who will end up winning the starting running back job for Alabama. This is obviously a good problem to have, and right before we get into it, please be sure to subscribe, as apparently 85% of you guys who watch this channel are not subscribed, and just by hitting that button really helps the channel a lot. I appreciate it a ton, and you're not going to want to miss out on any more college football content. And now, let's just get started and talk about Alabama running backs. The first guy we need to talk about is Camar Wheaton. He may not be the starting running back this year, and his role honestly might not be that much, but in the future he is going to be a bright player, and his time just probably hasn't arrived yet. Wheaton was a late signee in the class of 2021, and according to 24/7 Sports, was a 5-star recruit, the number 3 running back, and the 33rd best player in the class of 2021. He went to Lakeview Centennial High School in Garland, Texas, and had a very decorated high school career. He was torn between Alabama and Oklahoma. His high school coach had this to say about it: "I always felt like Alabama was up there because he was always a fan. Especially when you get somebody like Nick Saban there, and you have the tradition and culture that they have developed. When we visited for the first time, you could tell Camar was really intrigued. It made an impression on him. Every time we went back, it just kept growing on him in a positive way, and I felt like Alabama was always in the mix." So yeah, obviously Wheaton ended up taking his talents to the Crimson Tide, and he will arrive with a chance to play a little bit early on. According to all my research, Wheaton was a super humble guy, and it's why his recruitment was not that well known. He'll go down as one of the best high school running backs to ever come out of the state of Texas, and was both a football and a track star. He ran for nearly 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns as a junior, but his senior season would be canceled for obvious reasons. At 5'11", he has decent size, he's quick, has the right attitude, put up big numbers, and wants to win, so I think Wheaton will be a star player down the road for Bama, but as of right now, I think his role will be limited as a freshman, but who knows, and we'll have to wait and see. The next guy we need to talk about is none other than Roydell Williams. Coming out of Hueytown, Alabama, sorry if I butchered that, Roydell was a top 100 player as he was ranked number 77 in the country, the number 9 running back, and a 4-star recruit in the class of 2020. He committed to Alabama pretty early on and had a very decorated career. As a home state guy, he had 3 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons and would finish his high school football career at 5,929 yards and 92 total touchdowns. When it came to his recruitment, he was wanted by a ton of schools, but he eventually chose Alabama over the likes of Auburn, Florida, Florida State, and Kentucky. Williams is a guy who can be a 3-down player, as at 5'10" and over 200 pounds, he's a compact dude who runs with a physical style, but can also block and catch passes out of the backfield. As a freshman in 2020, he did not play a whole lot, as he ended up finishing with 19 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown in 8 total games of action. Roydell is one of the 4 players I truly do believe will be in the mix, and I think he has as good of a shot as anyone to win the job. We're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out throughout the summer. One of the guys I am most excited for is Jase McClellan. Coming out of Aledo, Texas, McClellan was a 4-star recruit, the number 6 running back, and the 47th best player in the class of 2020. He came into Alabama, joining 2 other guys who had signed, in Roydell, who we already talked about, and a guy named Kyle Edwards, who ended up transferring away. In his illustrious career in Aledo, he ran for 6,468 yards and 122 touchdowns. He became a big-time recruit, and actually originally decided to take his talents to Oklahoma. He would eventually flip to the Crimson Tide, and had this to say, quote, "Every year they're putting backs in the league and get freshmen playing time. You're playing with the best there. They're getting you developed." He arrived at Alabama with a ton of hype, but he was not going to play a lot to begin with, but he proved everyone wrong and actually saw the field a decent amount. Despite mostly playing on special teams, he still managed to run the ball 23 times for 245 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a huge game against Kentucky as he had 10 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown, and then had the most notable play of the season as he had an 80-yard score late in the game against the Arkansas Razorbacks. Apparently he is fueled and working very hard going into 2021, and I think there is actually a shot that he could be the day 1 starter. According to an Alabama blog post site, his strengths are his speed, vision, quickness, explosiveness, athleticism, and footwork, and the only real knock on his game is just the lack of reps. He played very well in the spring, as while Brian Robinson and Trey Sanders were out, he had a great day in the A game and showed the kind of flash he had. The next guy is probably the most polarizing player on the list, as it is Trey Sanders. In case you have been living under a rock, Sanders was a 5-star recruit and the #1 running back prospect in the class of 2019 and has been extremely hyped up for years. He came out of IMG Academy, which is known to produce a ton of elite level talent, and he had a spectacular season there. He rushed for 1,587 yards, 25 touchdowns, and averaged nearly 8.5 yards per carry, which was just incredible. He originally would commit to the Alabama Crimson Tide, but would actually later open up his recruitment just a couple months before signing day. Texas tried really hard to land him, but they could not secure him, as he would sign with the Alabama Crimson Tide after realizing he had a better chance of winning a title and being an NFL player. Sanders was expected to play from the jump, but just a week into camp, they got terrible news, as he suffered a season-ending foot injury just days into camp. This would require him surgery, and he would have a medical red shirt. Sanders was ready to bounce back in 2020, as he'd actually run the ball 30 times for 134 yards, but then he would get hit with another terrible roadblock. Quite literally, it would happen on the road, as he was in a serious car accident that would put him in the hospital and a wheelchair for a couple weeks. He would rehab and recover again, but would miss the remainder of the 2020 campaign, and he is looking to bounce back in a big way going into 2021. There's really nothing that Sanders cannot do, as he has the size, speed, quickness, elusiveness, decision-making, and overall talent to be a great running back, but he hasn't really gotten on the field, and how much are these injuries going to affect him? Sanders is the wild card in this group of 5 running backs, as he may have more talent than any of them, but will he be able to survive the injury bug? That's a question that will be answered during the year. The final guy we need to talk about in today's video is the likely starter and the best and most experienced option at this point in time, and his name is Brian Robinson Jr. He has been around the program for quite a long time, as he was actually a recruit in the class of 2017. According to 24/7 Sports, Brian Robinson was a 4-star recruit, the #8 running back, and the 145th best player in the class of 2017. He was from Hillcrest High School in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, so it was not shocking when he decided to pledge his talents to the Crimson Tide. In 2017, he would play in 4 games, rushing for 115 yards and a touchdown. As a sophomore, he would spend time as both a kickoff returner and a running back, as he'd have 63 carries for 272 yards and 2 scores, while also returning 5 kicks. As a junior, he'd kind of have a breakout season, as he would rush for 441 yards and 5 scores. He was obviously the backup to Najee Harris, but still had a very productive year as the second-string guy, as he went for 483 yards and 6 touchdowns, and showed his potential for the future. As of now, Brian Robinson can do a little bit of everything, has the most experience, and has been patiently waiting for his moment to shine. I've seen a lot of people saying that he could break out this year, that he's a dark horse Heisman contender, and could be a high pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. At this point, I don't really have an opinion on it, but I do believe he will be the Week 1 starter. He'll have a solid campaign, and he will likely be playing on Sundays next year. So overall, there are 5 options, which include a 5-star freshman, 2 highly recruited backups who have shown flash, 1 superstar running back who has yet to see the field, and then 1 experienced option. As of right now, I think Brian Robinson is the day 1 starter, with Jase McClellan becoming his backup. From there, I think Roydell and Trey Sanders will be the 3rd and 4th option, and I think Camar Wheaton will only see time in about 4 games, because he'll likely end up redshirting. What do you guys think, though? If you're an Alabama fan, let me know who the starting running back will be, how the depth chart will go, and just your overall thoughts on this season. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section, like the video if you want to support today's concept, subscribe if you're new here, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my preview for the 2021 Alabama season. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.